Right, it's talk time now. The Nigerian Customs Service has uncovered a large cache of pump-action rifles concealed in a 40-feet container in Lagos.
The rifles, which were more than 650 in number, were packed in 49 boxes and concealed with steel doors and other goods. Our maritime correspondent Ifunaya Eze tells us more.
10 cartridges. It's one of the newest make in design in operation now. So this one, if somebody has this, you can be sure how many lives will it take.
The Comptroller General of Customs, Hamid Ali, describing the massive destruction that can be caused if one of these rifles gets into the wrong hand. Explaining how the illegal consignment was intercepted, Ali lamented the audacity of the importers of the 661 pump-action rifles.
On Sunday, 22nd January 2017, the robbing team of the Nigerian Customs Service Federal Operation Unit, while on information patrol, intercepted a marked truck along Mile 2 Apapa Road. The truck was immediately taken to the premises of FOU Zone A, Ikeja, here, where physical examination revealed 49 boxes containing a total number of 661 pieces of pump-action rifles to fish out all persons involved in the importation and clearing of this consignment. Already the officers involved in the clearance of this container are with the controller FOU under detention.
Considering the number of containers that are imported into the country daily, questions were asked about the scanners that are not working at the port, especially when human error cannot be eliminated in the course of customs 100% examination.
Yes, we have problems with scanners. Most of them are not working. We are working diligently to replace them. Because of the unavailability of scanners, we have now compelled our officers to ensure it will be long, it's not going to facilitate trade as we want it, but for security of this country, we would rather go through the pains of taking every container at a time. Because if we had done everything diligently, probably this would not have left the port.
The customs boss says that 3 suspects arrested in connection with the prohibited importation will be investigated for more information. Ifunanya Eze, TVC News, Lagos.
All right, now the proliferation of arms. You know, sometimes these words just get into your head. Exactly. The proliferation of arms is one of the major security challenges currently facing Nigeria, Africa, and the world at large, fueling instability and posing a threat not only to security but also to sustainable development.
Many people are killed or wounded every year as a result of conflicts fought with these illegal weapons.
Now we have joining us in the studio Tony Ofoyeton, security expert. Right now, Tony, good morning.
Good morning.
It's nice
How
to
are
see
you
you
today?
Yeah, very fine. Isn't it nice to see you?
Nice to see you too.
We're also expecting the public relations officer of the Nigeria Customs Service to join us in our Abuja studio. But Tony, let's start on this. Arms are everywhere. In fact, with the seizure of customs seizure of arms just about a few days ago, it brought to the limelight again. It brought to the fore, brought to the glaring eyes of Nigerians how arms are everywhere. The ones we can see and the ones we can't even see. It can be easily imagined. How concerned were you when you saw this report from the customs?
Well, for some of us, it's not a novel. It's not something extraordinary. These are the ones that customs were able to. And because they were able to, it came to the glare of Nigerians. I bet you that container pass every now and then. And like you have heard the custom boss saying that we don't even have scanner. And if you look at the annual turnover of custom, it's one of the biggest in the country. Then you now begin to ask yourself a simple question. Why would an organization like custom not have a functional scanners all over their screening facilities? Why? I mean, when I heard him saying we're going to be doing a manual thing, even if it's going to delay and the like, I was a little bit disturbed. I was more disturbed on that, much more than the fact that the containers were that were apprehended.
Nigeria is being shortchanged even with that process. Beyond 100%. Even seeing what they are coming in, they could deceive them.
The question is, who are those that imported them? Like the right word, I love that, audacity. The audacity. Now, audacity is a product of having a backbone or backbones. You and I cannot import, you can't even bear arm. Not even the one that can be licensed, which is the pump action. Pump action and maybe hunting gun that you can license, and you have a gaming license on all those stuff and the like. You can't even bear such, and not to talk of having 661 or thereabout pump action. Not just pump action, the latest. Much more sophisticated.
According to the UN, 70% of illegal firearms in West Africa are in Nigeria.
I agree with that. You see, if you look at what is happening in the Boko Haram region, if you look at what is happening in the herdsmen region, then like we all ask, where did they get these arms from? You can answer that question now. Don't forget that last week or thereabout, 2 armored helicopters without importer, without any documentation in any way whatsoever, found its way into the country. I'm sure that these were the ones that were discovered. Because you ask yourself, a propelling, a missile, and all those stuff, how are these very deadly weapons coming into the hands of the terrorists, that they are now using it to terrorize us? It's high time that the government begin to look at variables. And one of such variables is either to do a house-to-house. Yes. It's especially,
but how effective
especially in crisis-prone regions. Especially in crisis-prone regions. Now, we've heard of stories of arms being hidden in worship centers, because it's a remote place for security agents to want to go. It's believed to be sacred. And because they know that becomes a vulnerable area, open area for you to. We've heard of stories of arms being kept in the hands of beggars, even akara fryers, petty traders. And you will hardly want to believe that such things are in those people's custody.
Exactly.
The people you look at, you get to their houses, you find nothing. And the people you least expect, you see them and they give them return for those type of things. I think that the government, security agencies should be much more proactive.
Okay. All right, we'll come to this. Now, Nigeria's case is particularly alarming as small arms and light weapons are concentrated in the wrong hands to perpetrate crimes and fueling insurgency, militancy, herdsmen attacks, kidnapping, armed robbery, cultism, to mention but a few. Certainly, Tony just mentioned some of them recently.
A recent United Nations research shows that out of 857 million small arms and light weapons in the world, an estimated 500 million are illegal and are circulating in West Africa. 350 million of the 500 million small arms and light weapons are in Nigeria, like I said before, representing about 70% of the entire figure, and about 7.5% of the ones in Africa as a whole are present here in Nigeria. So how do these illicit weapons even get into Nigeria? Do you want to answer that question for us? Apart from
yes, you have the ones that are coming through the land border. They come in through primitive farmers. You assume that they are with their farm produce. The weapons are under their basket, the farm produce on top, and they go. Then some come through cows and camels and cattle and all those stuff like that in the process of migrating. Some also come in through, syndicated arms trade. It's a secret syndicated arms trade. Then some also come to compromises from some fraudulent security agent officers. Then, of course, you also talk about the air some come through the air, and of course our sea border. Now those ones that come through the air and through the sea, they are basically those that had the backbone of high power government functionaries that come from presidency. Just say, allow that cargo, you know, call one big man from presidency, and the man is saying, allow such cargo and all those stuff like that under whatever, maybe presidential cover and all those stuff like that. Now these are some of the ways through which, then of course some foreign countries are not also helping matters in that, especially in the Niger Delta region where you have oil theft. Now what happened at times is that when those oil are stolen and they are sold, the buyer exchange it with arms and dollars. Now in other words, if the crude oil is worth, let's assume $100,000, now $30,000 could be in arms, the rest 70,000 could be in cash, or vice versa. Now these are what happened on the waterways. This makes it easy for arms and ammunition to find their way into the country.
Okay, we'll come back to this. Let's go on a break. We'll come to dwell more on this. And don't forget, we're still expecting the PRO of the Nigerian Customs Service in our Abuja studio. Still with us.
Glad to have you back. It is still TVC Breakfast, and it's talk time, and we're talking right now about illegal firearms in Nigeria. And our security expert is with us in the studio. Tony Ufeyeton is right here with us, and we have quite a lot of information to churn out, so we'll just continue with that.
Yeah, Nigeria is bordered by Benin Republic in the west, Chad and Cameroon in the east, and Niger in the north. Most of these borders are porous, giving easy access to armed smugglers to engage in the illicit trade of arms proliferation.
Some of these arms are also concealed in other items shipped into the country. In fact, the Nigerian Customs seized arms and ammunition imported into the country from the U.S. and Europe on different occasions at various points of entry between 2012 and 2016. There is also the case stockpile management by security agencies where weapons meant for government work are diverted, and the UN actually indicted Nigeria in this case that is what is happening, lack of proper management of stockpile. Many weapons stolen from the police by the armed robbers have not been recovered till date.
Local blacksmiths also produce small arms which are not easily accounted for, from long single guns made for hunting and traditional festivals. Blacksmiths have perfected their trade into the production of pistols and double-barrel guns. Let's examine some of the demand and supply factors fueling the proliferation of arms in Nigeria, which is one of the questions we'll be asking Tony in the house. Now, unrest, among other issues, create a market for illicit arms to thrive, while willing sellers and buyers, lucrativeness and porous borders account for the others.
The end of the civil war in Nigeria in 1970 marked a sharp rise in the proliferation of small arms and light weapons in the country. Reports say the Nigerian police recorded 12,153 incidences of violent crime associated with arms in 1970 as against 2,315 incidences recorded in 1967 before the war broke out. A very sharp increase, you will say there.
Now, instances of clampdown by security agents on the illegal movement of arms and light weapons abound. Now, in October 2010, 15 containers of dangerous weapons illegally imported into the country were intercepted at the Apapa port in Lagos. Some of the weapons include rocket launchers, mortar bombs, small light arms and ammunition.
In August 2012, the Benue State Police Command arrested 15 persons and impounded a car laden with weapons. In December 2014, the Nigerian military intercepted a Russian plane loaded with large amounts of arms and ammunition bound for neighboring Chad. The plane was seized at the Aminu Kano International Airport. Tony, let's bring you in here. Let's go to the ECOWAS protocols. Article 50, Article 51 of the ECOWAS protocol, quite a lot of moratorium on the issues of light arms. The member states should disallow it, not even manufacture it, share information. And you heard all the figures we are reeling out. What is going on?
Well, of course, like everybody that values life, it's petrifying. It's really petrifying. More so, apart from the ones that are imported, there are those ones that are fabricated locally. But I must also say very quickly that, you know, day gun, double barrel are not major issues for concern, because the primary purpose for that is for the purpose of hunting. The pump action we talk about is the only, I think it's then gun, pump action and double barrel that are permitted to be licensed by individuals. Now the pump action is basically for most likely who you are and for self-protection and the like. The law allows that to that extent, which you renew on annual basis. Your record are always before the police. It is the police that will sell the gun to you. It is the police that will give you the cartridges that are needed, and all those cartridges are numbered. In other words, each bullet are numbered, and you are bound to account for it. Every month you have a form you fill and file in the police. Now that brings a very, we have statutorily, we have good regulations. So when you talk about statutory regulation as to guns, the armories and the like, but in terms of implementation is always the problem. Now it's always the problem. Why? Because the security agencies have been compromised. Now you don't know those who are sympathetic to the cause of terrorism. And because of that, if unfortunately it is those that are sympathetic to the cause of terrorism that are asked to move arms from destination A to destination B, be rest assured that between destination A and destination B, the arms would have reduced drastically. Now because of their own personal intention. And that's what happened in most cases now. You talk about rocket launcher, which is a major challenge in the Niger Delta region. My sister, my brother, rocket launcher is not 5 kobo. It's not 10 kobo. It's not something that even those that are using it cannot afford it. Even those that are using it cannot afford it. Because the list of pump action you talk about is an average of 300,000 conservatively. So, I mean, you begin to ask, where will he get that money to have 10, 50, 30? I hope you understand what we're talking about. Now, it simply means that, you see, for government to be able to stop this act, you need to put your intelligence machinery in motion. Who are the parliamentarians? Who are the senators? Who are the governors? Who are the presidents that are in charge of this whole thing? It's not children's game. Let's not deceive ourselves and begin to say that we have armed robbers. The level of arms and ammunition in the hand of armed robbers, they are incomparable when it talks about real terrorism. Look at what is happening in the Fulani, the headman crisis. Look at what is happening in the Niger Delta region. Look at what is happening in the Boko Haram region. Look, if our problem is armed robbery is one of the least things that can be tackled. Or even when you talk about terror, kidnapping and all those stuff like that, they are incomparable with the arms that go into the hands of the Niger Delta Avengers, the headsmen, the terrorism as a whole. And that is where government need to come all out. Not begin to look at small children and begin to use them as scapegoats and cover up the big men. Why? Because they belong to the same party with you, belong to the same ethnic group, or belong to the same religious faith with you. No, the government, as far as I'm concerned, these things are not things you can easily hide. Because when you talk about importation of armed chopper, decompartmentalized, only for the purpose of coming into the country and to be assembled subsequently. Government can never bring in such things without record. No matter what, no government can bring such thing without record.
All right, let's make us understand. All of this importation, smuggling in, now from this United Nations record where we're talking about 70% of proliferated arms in West Africa is in Nigeria. What's that thing? What's the attraction in Nigeria? What is making Nigeria a hub for all of these arms precisely?
Well, I think, for me, each ethnic group in Nigeria, each religious faith in Nigeria is envisaging doom. Is envisaging that one day there could be crisis, there could be calamity, there could be. And because of that, right or wrong, seems to be arming themselves. That's the way I see it. And that is why the government need to really come all out and look at reasons why these things are being done. One day somebody can attack me, or attack my religion, or attack my ethnic group. I want to be prepared. Secondly, to the security agencies themselves have not been up and doing. People seem to have lost some level of faith and confidence in the security agencies. Now what they want to do is to prepare themselves for self-defense. Look, whether we believe it or not, whatever we think about it, people are beginning to have a different orientation about defense in this country. You now begin to see people are now beginning to put machinery in motion to defend themselves. The security agency has not really, given the average Nigerian the confidence they need to say, if we call you, you will answer us.
Last week we had the Commissioner of Police, Lagos the Commissioner of Police, Fatai Owosheni, and I think he said that security starts with you, that you have to take care of yourself, protect yourself. You should start from you then. So, who do you blame?
But in that case,
I'm not sure I was talking about you, anyway.
Well, whichever way I can protect.
I think he was talking about just being conscious
and
then reporting anything.
But you see, what she is also saying is not out of place. Because when you say security begins with you, some of us, let me tell you the truth, some of us had advocated that they should legalize arms in this country. And they had been like, it's going to lead to a lot of violence, it's going to lead to a lot of abuses and the like. I say, yes, there are always preliminary casualty in every new innovation. But at the end of the day, you now discover that it's a 50-50 thing. You bear arm, I bear arm. If you want to attack me, you have the consciousness that I most likely would retaliate. And at the end of the day, if you look at what is happening in developed countries where they bear arms, yes, there are abuses, but you discover that most of the security challenges we are facing, somebody coming to wipe off a whole village, coming to attack families and all those, they are at a barest minimum compared with their numerical strength and their technological advancement, compared with every wealth that they have. Now, if we have those type of things and we are this bare, it's most likely going to be more devastating. So that at that level, some of us are like, look, why don't you allow Nigerians to bear arms under strict conditions? Lay the conditions on ground. We can bear the pump action, for example. That means that there's an opening. Now, why don't you leverage on that opening and widen it, make it better to the extent that the average Nigerian knows that you demystify the gun. You see, when you demystify the gun, it helps security a lot. But because the mere sight of the gun itself could kill 80% of Nigerians are dead without even shooting it. That's why you see that somebody will come to your house. He is not even pointing the gun at you. He shows you the gun. He covers it back.
He gets the reaction. You obey
whatever he wants, and it goes away. You understand? So I think that the government should begin to look at areas where to demystify the myth behind the gun. And these are areas that, you know, so many things that the government can do to help security in this country.
All right.
I want to search it because, excuse me, when you say Nigerians, we are responsible for our security to some extent, how do you secure yourself against a man that is armed and you are not armed?
And the police can be everywhere.
And the police cannot be everywhere. They are not God. They can't be everywhere. How do you secure yourself?
Well, in all of this, narrowing it down, anyway, it's time for us to round off now, but it is said, we heard some comments yesterday that 2019 is by the corner now, and all of this importation should be envisaged. What do you say about that?
No, the issue of 2019, it's not a political importation. No, I don't see it as such, because over, at least for some time now, our elections have become less and less violence. We only have post-election violence, but pre and within election, the level of violence has been, except for few states. Yes, except for few states. But the major concern should be that we should have, once the election is free, once the election is credible, once the election is acceptable, I hope you understand that. Even if you import the whole arms in the whole world, it becomes useless. It becomes useless. Okay. And I think that is what the government should think about.
All right, Tony Foyeton, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, this is where we come to the end of today's edition of the program. Tomorrow, we'll be back again with other issues that concern Nigeria and Nigerians. I am Mike Okwacha. Have a great day.
And I am Busola Mituashe. Let's do this again tomorrow. Bye for now.